Before my life spiraled into a storm of accusations and court battles, things were different. I thrived in the comfort of my small Ohio hometown where everything felt familiar. My days were filled with engineering projects, laughs with college friends who became business partners, and peaceful evenings with my wife, Tammy Jo. I thought life couldn't be better. Trust was natural, and betrayal seemed like a plot reserved for TV dramas. Tammy Jo's lively spirit and bright smile defined my early adulthood. We met young, fell in love quickly, and jumped into a fast-paced romance. I trusted her, us, and our future. But love proved more complicated than I imagined. I didn't see the collapse coming, and my once reliable peace was about to shatter. Take a breath, Danny, and calm down. Dave Peterson, my childhood friend turned county sheriff, tried to keep me steady as I explained the mess I was caught in. Bright lights glared overhead like an old detective show. Despite the tension, the setup was so cliché I nearly laughed. The only person not amused was the serious district attorney, Martha Erickson, whose sharp gaze and constant pen-clicking amped up the pressure. Martha, a decade older than me, divorced and somewhat heavy-set, leaned forward, her brown hair falling past her shoulders. She had a kind side, but right now, she was all business. Sitting beside her was my lawyer, Joe Colston. For a small-town attorney, he was decent enough. He once had a shot with a big company in Detroit, but opted for a laid-back life, often giving legal advice online for quick cash. Joe, in his 50s with a receding hairline and a Trump-like comb-over, would look better embracing baldness. Joe, you've got 3 choices. Accept your baldness and comb it normally, get a transplant like Elton John, or shave it off and channel Professor X. Remember that prosecutor from Florida? He shaved his head, gained a cool nickname, and turned heads. Joe wasn't paying attention, just tapping his legal pad. Next to Joe, separated from me by Dave, sat Allison Payne. She used to be Allison Scott until I married her, unintentionally making her name the punchline of countless jokes. Allison is beautiful, petite with striking curves. Her red hair, like a fire engine, flows perfectly, and her healthy, sun-kissed skin is flawless. Her green eyes and captivating smile make people listen, though some guys are so mesmerized they miss her words. That was me once. I fell for her, and now we were married. Allison's small frame doesn't align with the typical assumptions. Her figure is proportionate, her smile precise. Today she beams at me, and everything else, the charges of attack, attempted murder, and serious harm, fades away. Allison, facing her own charges of hijacking and false imprisonment, is by my side. This is my girl. Tammy Jo's glare was filled with anger, jealousy, and resentment toward Allison, draining the room of any ease. Her parents, decent but unimaginative folks, weren't to blame for her behavior. Tammy Jo, or TJ as she preferred, had 2 friends who barely remembered her nickname, while others called her a pleasure, unrelated to her last name. I had my own nickname for her, Skankzilla, when I bothered addressing her. Tammy Jo, my ex-wife, was nothing like Allison. She was taller, curvier, and not as cute. Once she was attractive, with long dark hair, blue eyes, and an impressive figure, but time and life had changed her. Back then, I liked things in excess. Tammy Jo's striking legs and curves fit that mold, but our impulsive marriage fell apart soon after I graduated. All right, are you or aren't you responsible for what happened to the victim? Dave, now Sheriff Peterson, shouted. It's complicated, Dave. Maybe, but it's not really my fault, I replied. So it's her fault, right? Dave asked, pointing at Allison. Not entirely, I said, glancing at Allison. Look at her, Dave. She's beautiful. Focus, Danny. Who cut off the mayor's sons? You know what? Dave pressed. I have the answer, Sheriff, I said, holding back a laugh that would have set Allison off too. It was an accident. I was trying to help him, I explained, catching Martha's frantic note-taking. Martha, jerk is spelled with 2 S's, I said. Danny, how is this Tammy Jo's fault? She was in Michigan when this happened, Dave questioned. This started 3 years ago when we were married, I admitted. All right, we have time. Start from there, Dave said, gesturing to the coffee on the table. Allison raised her hand. Can I sit there? It's going to be a long story, she asked, pointing at my chair. If Danny's okay with it, Dave said. Allison didn't wait. She crossed the room, sat on my lap, wrapped her arms around me, and rested her head on my shoulder. The collective reaction from the room was palpable. Hell no, Tammy Jo yelled. I don't want her on my husband's lap. Ex-husband, I corrected. If she hadn't stolen you during our rough patch, you'd still be my husband, Tammy Jo snapped. You mean our divorce? I shot back. Tammy Jo had a knack for liquidating the mood. Does anyone mind Allison sitting there? Dave asked. No, just start the story, Martha replied. Joe, my lawyer, chimed in. Whatever keeps my client happy works for me. He might have glanced at Martha's feet, but I wasn't sure. All right, 3 years ago, I was doing well. I had an engineering degree from the University of Michigan and started a consulting firm with George, an electrical engineer, and Marty, a mechanical engineer. While jobs were scarce, we defied the odds, bypassed the big three, and built our own business that attracted plenty of clients. Tammy Jo and I had been together since our first love, and marriage was always a given, just a matter of when. During college, Tammy Jo kept her vow to remain a maid until marriage, despite being known for her wild side. But things took a dark turn at her 20th birthday party, when some guys at her school got her extremely drunk and attacked her. The next morning, she realized something was wrong, but couldn't piece it together. The men involved blackmailed her to stay silent, demanding more from her in exchange for their secrecy. Initially, she complied out of fear, but eventually it became a pattern, damaging her reputation beyond repair. When Tammy Jo returned home for the summer, she was ostracized. She had no friends, male or female, and even her roommate avoided her. Despite all this, she had only experienced real intimacy once, and she barely remembered it. That summer we reconnected, and I fell for her all over again, believing she loved me and would do anything for me. Early in our marriage, she was kind and devoted. We explored every facet of intimacy, deepening our bond. Things changed when we met Laura on the beach. Laura was the opposite of Tammy Jo, tall and slender. I noticed her, but it was Tammy Jo who brought her up. She's hot, isn't she? She asked. Surprised, I replied, not as hot as you, honey. Tammy Jo then hinted at a bold birthday gift idea. I didn't dwell on it, having just splurged on my dream car, a Ford GT. It was my reward for our business success and the most extravagant purchase I'd ever made besides our house. I spent the day driving it, thrilled with my new toy, when Tammy Jo called. Danny, come home and open your present. I raced home and found her upstairs waiting in the bedroom. She stood, leaning over the bed with everything set up for me. 2 things I loved most, ready and waiting. Tammy Jo's curves always drove me wild. She'd gained a bit of weight over time, but she was still undeniably attractive. I hurriedly dropped my pants, eager for what was next. Hold on, cowboy, Tammy Jo said with a smile. She stood up, letting her full figure show. I needed to make sure you still wanted me, she teased. I nodded eagerly. You still make me feel wanted, she said. I'm glad I'm not just some neglected housewife. That'll never happen, TJ, I reassured her. Back then, I truly thought I loved her. Good, she said. I have a surprise for you in honor of your birthday. The bathroom door opened and Laura stepped out wearing just a ribbon and high heels, wrapping around her petite frame. You can spin me around whenever you want, Laura said playfully. Though I'd always been committed to one woman, it was my birthday, and Laura was undeniably beautiful. If I rejected the gift, Tammy Jo would be furious, so I stayed quiet. I'll be back in a couple of hours, Tammy Jo said as she left. Once the door closed, I felt uneasy. Laura approached me, but I didn't feel the excitement I expected and pulled my pants back up. It's not you, I said to her. You're the best gift I've ever gotten, even better than my car. Wait, what car? She asked, intrigued. A Ford GT, I replied. Wow, can we take a ride? She said excitedly. We spent the next 2 hours driving and chatting about cars. Laura said she felt at ease with me and even kissed me goodbye as Tammy Jo returned. Tammy Jo looked pleased, seeing Laura leave. Did you have fun? She asked. Yes, we did, I replied honestly. It wasn't as bad as you thought, was it? She said, hinting again at the group activities she'd been suggesting for weeks. I had been clear that I wasn't interested, but she kept bringing it up. Realizing my expression, Tammy Jo dropped the topic for the night. A week later, Laura came back. When I asked why, she said she enjoyed spending time with me and liked the way I kissed. Where's Tammy Jo? I asked. She went shopping, Laura said. She said she loves you too much to watch at first and wanted you to get used to it. I sat down, feeling conflicted. Laura massaged my shoulders, her touch soothing. What's on your mind? She asked. I explained that I might be old-fashioned, but I only wanted Tammy Jo. Laura said Tammy Jo loved me deeply and was trying to make me happy in her own way. I nodded, but I wanted Tammy Jo to understand she was enough. That's how Laura and I spent the second visit, just talking. When I saw Laura for the 3rd time, everything shifted. Tammy Jo had planned a barbecue, inviting 2 other couples. One couple was from our neighborhood, and I knew them casually through car talk. The second arrival shocked me. It was Laura and her much older boyfriend, Ken. You know Laura, Tammy Jo said, wearing a lingerie top that barely held her. This is Ken, Laura's boyfriend. Ken's smile was more of a smirk, and I disliked him immediately. He ignored Tammy Joe's revealing outfit, which was odd. Either he was unfazed or had seen it too many times before. After the neighbors left, Ken commented on my car. "Laura talks about it all the time," he said. Sensing tension, I tossed him my keys. "Be careful, the power comes on fast." He threw them back, admitting he couldn't drive a manual. "Come on, Danny, show it off," Tammy Jo encouraged. I took Laura for a drive, confused by the situation. She mentioned covering up, but Ken told her to stay as she was. What kind of man sends his girlfriend off like that? Tammy Jo said she'd change, so we left. After a fast drive, we returned sooner than expected. I walked inside and found Ken with Tammy Jo. I lost control, attacked Ken, and kept hitting him until Tammy Jo pulled me back. "Danny, you're going to eliminate him," she cried. "Get out of my house and take him with you," I yelled. Ken, bruised but not seriously hurt, moaned on the floor. Laura came in, looked at him without concern, and helped him out. No one said a word. "Why are you still here?" I asked Tammy Jo. I expected her to be defensive or angry, but she looked devastated and started crying, as if I had done something wrong. It felt like I had broken some unspoken rule. Despite everything, I still loved Tammy Jo, so her breakdown hit me hard. I hugged her, saying it would be okay, and promised to be generous in the divorce, even though we had a prenup. This only made her cry louder. She pushed me away, grabbed a pen, and wrote, "I do not want or accept any money from Danny or his company," signing it tearfully. I knew it wouldn't stand up in court, but it made me wonder, if not money, what did she want? "What do you want, TJ?" I asked. "You can have the house, more than what's in the prenup." She cried even more. "I just want you," she shouted. "That's all I ever wanted." "But you were just with him," I said. "Why not be with him and be happy?" She looked at me, puzzled. "You really don't get it, do you?" she said. "I'm not staying married to someone who cheats," I said. "How did I cheat?" she asked. "I love you. You and I are meant to be together. Take this somewhere else," I replied. "Danny, love and sex aren't the same," she said, speaking slowly like I was a child. "We're young, have money, and are figuring things out. I just wanted to explore and experience new things. Our bad life is so good that I want to build on it." I was stunned, unsure who was thinking irrationally. Her calm explanation seemed logical, but I couldn't accept it. "How does that excuse what you did?" I asked. "I didn't cheat," she said firmly. "I wanted us to try swapping. You said no, and I respected that, but tried to ease into it with smaller steps." "I'd still say no," I replied. "I don't want that. You're all I need." "But Danny, you didn't," she said. "You enjoyed it. Even now, I feel insecure, afraid of losing you." "What do you mean?" I asked. "We didn't do any of that." One evening, as I passed by, she said, "Can we have dinner at Texas Roadhouse?" "No, thanks," I replied. "Danny, let me make this right," she said. "I love you more than anything." "I'll think about it, TJ," I said. That conversation made me consider forgiveness, but I still needed time. The wound was fresh, and I barely spoke to her for days. I wondered how Laura felt or how Ken fared after the fight. At the barbecue, it had seemed like things were off between Laura and Ken, maybe explaining why he allowed her involvement. Despite Laura's beauty, I couldn't trade her for Tammy Jo. I loved Tammy Jo deeply and couldn't imagine life without her. The next morning, before leaving, I kissed her goodbye. She sighed and tried to pull me into bed. "I've missed you," she whispered. I went to work and immediately called Laura. She sounded down, and I worried Ken might have taken out his anger on her after the fight. "Laura, are you okay?" I asked. "Not really," she said, her voice tinged with sadness. "What's going on?" I asked. "Can we meet and talk?" she replied, giving me the address of a park near her house. I felt uneasy about going to her place, so I agreed. When I saw Laura at the park, she looked as beautiful as when I first saw her playing tennis. But now she was crying. "What's wrong?" "I'm sorry for what happened with Ken," I said, though I wasn't truly sorry, just worried about her. "Why did he do that?" she asked, confused. "Because he thought we were involved and didn't like how I reacted when I found him with Tammy Jo," I explained. "That's what bothers me most," she said, tearing up. "What do you mean?" I asked. "You can tell him the truth, and he'll back off." Laura burst into tears, and I led her to a bench. "What's wrong, Laura?" "I messed everything up," she sobbed. "That's why I don't have a chance with you, isn't it?" "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Your wife paid me to show up at your house for your birthday," she admitted. "I'm a student with loans and bills. She offered me $1,000 and I couldn't pass it up. I liked you, and it was supposed to be one time. But she called again, and I agreed. Honestly, I'd do it for free." She wiped her tears. "You never made a move on me, and I started hoping for more. But when she asked me to come a third time with a swimsuit, I realized you loved her, and I didn't stand a chance. Is that what made Ken upset? Did he know you had feelings for me? I asked. She laughed. I met Ken the day of the barbecue. Your wife had me pick him up, and that's when I learned he was supposed to be my boyfriend. I thought it was all part of a role play. Anger surged through me. I thanked Laura, drove away, and called my lawyer, Joe Colston, to start the divorce. Joe, new to the firm, asked if I had the prenuptial agreement. I said I'd grab it from the house and bring it to him. I felt surprisingly calm, maybe because I'd already been considering leaving Tammy Jo after all the lies. My plan was simple: sneak in, grab the document, and leave without drama. But things went wrong. As I quietly opened the gate to our pool area, I saw Tammy Jo lounging in the sun, with Ken between her legs and 2 other men involved. The sight was shocking. I shut the gate loudly, and they all froze. "Oh no," Tammy Jo muttered. Ken's eyes widened. Oh crap. He scrambled to climb our 8-foot privacy fence, still barefoot and without clothes, desperate to flee rather than face me. One man tried to dress quickly. I headed inside while Tammy Jo started to cry. "Danny, let me explain," Tammy Jo pleaded. I laughed. "He's going for a tool," Ken said. He knew I had a collection of swords and axes at home. One guy blocked me, while the other, still without clothes, dashed to the gate. The one in front of me tried to speak, but I slapped him and asked, "What?" before pushing him aside. When I left with the document, all 3 men were gone. "Danny, please!" Tammy Jo cried. "Say what you need to now, Tammy Jo," I said calmly. "When I come back tonight, I want you and your things gone. I offered a fair divorce before, but now I'm sticking to the prenup. $10,000 for every year we were married." I wrote her a check for $20,000. "You can keep the car." "No, Danny," she said. "I was just trying to make things better." "Time's up, TJ," I said firmly. "To make things right with Ken and Laura, I had to balance it out," she claimed. "You were with Laura 3 times, so I needed to do it too." I laughed. "Sure, TJ, makes sense." "Yes," she said, hopeful. "I understand now. You're a lying, cheating woman," I said. "Forget the car, call a taxi." "Why?" she whined. "You lied more than once," I said. "Laura and Ken met at the barbecue. You lied about balancing things out with him. Who were those other 2 men? And you paid Laura to seduce me. Get out of my house." "But Danny, it's not cheating if we both did it," she protested. "It was just lovemaking." "Call Laura and confirm. I never touched her. I loved you, TJ. You were enough for me," I said. Then I left, ignoring her cries. I gave my lawyer the prenup and told him to serve the papers at Texas Roadhouse at 6 p.m. where I'd arranged to meet Tammy Jo. I called her, pretending to reconsider. "TJ, I'm so angry, but I don't know how to live without you. Can we talk one last time?" "Yes, Danny," she said eagerly. "I'll do anything." "Texas Roadhouse, 6 p.m. Wear the red dress," I said. "No underwear?" she teased. "Doesn't matter, but come ready to tell me everything," I said. "Of course." "What's the second thing?" she asked. "Be prepared for a shock," I replied. My lawyer, surprised, nodded as I left. The next few weeks were tense. Tammy Jo fought the divorce, but didn't try to change the prenup or ask for more money. She even took out a full-page ad in the newspaper declaring her love. I remained firm. The divorce was finalized, and I could move forward. I wasn't cruel. Besides the $20,000, I gave her 1/3 of our savings and a house. She used some money for therapy and cruises aimed at addressing personal issues, texting me updates along the way. Tammy Jo often showed up at my apartment, trying to talk. One bold visit was on my birthday, wearing just a raincoat and heels. She reminded me we always had birthdays ex, even before marriage, and saw no reason to stop. Tempted but determined, I refused. When she wouldn't leave, I called the police. I missed her, but I was trying to move on, even though she wouldn't let go. One morning, a detour took me down an unfamiliar street, where I found a small cafe and decided to have breakfast. As I sat there feeling down about my life, divorced for almost a year and unable to forget TJ, a crash interrupted my thoughts. My Ford GT parked nearby had been hit by an old truck. The noise drew everyone's attention, and the car was severely damaged while the old truck had barely a scratch. I rushed to the truck and found a woman with striking green eyes and red hair, looking terrified. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I think so," she said, admitting her brakes had failed. "Don't give extra info," I warned. "It could be used against you." She thanked me and asked about the car. I assured her insurance would handle it. "I don't have insurance," she whispered. "You're in trouble," I said. "How expensive is it?" she asked nervously. "Over 100,000, I said. She looked faint, and I caught her as she fell. She was much smaller than TJ and light as a feather. An ambulance came, checked her out, and said she was fine, but recommended a hospital visit. "I'm so sorry," she said. eyes wide with remorse. "I'll pay you back, even if it takes my whole life," she added, "once I find a job and a place to live." "Where have you been staying?" I asked. "In my truck," she said, now impounded by the police. I laughed, and the day flew by as we visited the hospital. She was fine except for a few bruises. I offered her my spare room until her truck was released. "Promise not to try anything funny," she said seriously. I promised, and she nodded. "Good, because I wouldn't want to hurt you after you've been so kind," she said. I took Allison shopping, and she wasn't thrilled. I bought her jeans and sneakers like she preferred, but insisted she also get skirts, blouses, and nice shoes. "I owe you more than I could ever repay," she said. "Why buy dressy clothes? I won't wear them." "You have to, Ellie," I replied. "You can't wear jeans to work." "But I don't have a job," she grinned. "I think I can get you one at my office," I said. "Cleaning?" she joked. "You'll see," I laughed. At home, she liked my apartment and offered to cook, but I ordered pizza since she was still shaken from the accident. While waiting, she bathed and came out in a towel, no nightwear bought. I gave her an old pair of pajamas, which she made look amazing. She fell asleep on the couch, and I covered her before going to bed. For the first time in ages, I didn't think of Tammy Jo. The next morning, Allison put on one of the new skirts. "We're going to work," I told her. I introduced her as my new assistant. She caught on quickly and was a hard-working, fast learner. Within a month, she was efficient. Meanwhile, her truck was declared a road hazard, costing more to fix than it was worth, and she got a fine for no insurance, which I covered. Allison worked as my assistant and kept the apartment tidy. "You don't need to do this," I said. "You must be exhausted." "It's not a burden," she replied. "After all you've done for me, it's the least I can do. But you won't need to worry much longer." "Why?" I asked. "I found an apartment," she said. "It's not great, but I can afford it with my salary. You're paying me too much, so I can start repaying you." I nodded, surprised. I wanted to tell her to stay, but couldn't, probably because of how Tammy Jo had controlled me. Weeks later, Allison announced she had a date. "A colleague is showing me around the city," she said. I felt angry, but said nothing. She looked stunning when she came out, which only made it worse. "Don't wait up, I might be late," she said cheerfully. "Just go," I muttered. She paused, waiting for something I didn't say. The entire night, I paced. At 2 a.m., I almost called her, but didn't. Then my phone rang. "Allison, are you—" I started. "Is that the redhead you asked to dinner?" Tammy Jo's angry voice cut in. "What's wrong with you, Danny? I'm in therapy trying to fix us, and you're seeing someone else." I almost laughed, but was too mad at Allison. "Tammy Jo, we're divorced. We have nothing to fix. You wanted to experiment, so now we're free. You do what you want. I'll invite redheads to dinner." "She's so tiny," Tammy Jo said. "If you care about her, you should let her go. I might ruin her." I laughed and hung up. At 1 a.m., Allison came home, and I ran to my room. The next morning, she seemed happy, but said nothing, and I avoided her all day. When she came to my office at lunch, I told her I was too busy. "We could order in," she suggested. "I'm not hungry," I replied. She looked hurt, but walked away with Carolyn. Later at 3 p.m., Tammy Jo called. "Good job, Danny," she said. "I was serious about hurting her. You're mine, and I'll get you back." I hung up. Allison went out every night, and tension grew. Finally, I asked when she'd leave. "Soon," she said, looking unhappy. That evening, after Allison left, someone knocked. It was Joe Dawson, the building's head of maintenance. "Why are you treating Allison this way?" he asked. "What are you talking about?" I replied, suspecting Tammy Jo's involvement. "She's crazy about you. You bring women home and make her leave." I laughed and showed him my empty place. "You've got it wrong, Joe. Allison is the one going out every night." Joe looked surprised, then laughed. "Same thing my mom did to my dad. Come see." He led me to the laundry room and opened the door. There was Allison, reading and yawning. "She's been doing this every night," Joe said. Relief and frustration hit me. Joe called later to say Allison was on her way home. I left, turned off the lights, and waited in my car down the street. When she peeked outside to check if I was gone, I returned with my shirt unbuttoned, lipstick on my collar, and my zipper down. Allison, arms crossed and furious, shouted, "Where were you?" She noticed my disheveled look and started crying before running to her room. I knocked and heard her sobbing. I opened the door to see her face down, crying. Despite my anger, my feelings for her were strong. Part of me felt she deserved the hurt for playing games, but seeing her like that made me regret it. "I'll leave tomorrow," she said, still crying. "Don't go, Allison," I said. "How could I be so stupid?" she sobbed, her face turning from tearful to angry in an instant. "I never wanted this," she cried. It was Carolyn's idea, and look where it got us. Ellie, what do you mean? I asked. My confused look seemed to spark more anger in her. Oh God, you're such a jerk. Why couldn't I fall in love with someone who wasn't broken? She said, glaring at me. Love? I said, pointing at her, the word tasting strange after Tammy Jo. Me? I asked, surprised. Why do you care? She snapped. Just another thing for you to mock while you date every woman you meet. What are you talking about, Ellie? I asked, confused. I'm not stupid, she shouted. You come home smelling like perfume, lipstick on your collar, clothes a mess. Let's review, Ellie, I said. Maybe you really are mistaken. She looked ready to argue, but I covered her mouth with my hand. Can we talk calmly? I asked. She nodded. When I removed my hand, she tried speaking again, so I kissed her. Her soft lips were hesitant at first, then she melted into the kiss and responded passionately before suddenly pulling away. I shouldn't have done that. You just came back from someone else and you called me stupid, she said. Then why did you? I teased. Because She trailed off, lips pursed. Love me, I said mockingly. No, she snapped. You already said it, I replied. She glanced at the lipstick on my collar. Where else do you have lipstick? She demanded. On your dressing table, I said. It's yours, Ellie, and the perfume is yours too. Realization crossed her face. I beat you at your own game, I said. If I wanted anyone, it'd be you. Your plan worked. I was jealous, but couldn't say it after what Tammy Jo did. Ellie nodded, holding out her hands. I wanted to trust her, but needed her honesty. You went on dates, and I felt jealous. I wanted you to feel the same. I didn't want to do it, she admitted. Caroline said you'd never open up unless pushed. I just wanted you to tell me not to go, but you never did. We tried hiding it at work, but it didn't last. Within days, coworkers joked, looks like you finally pulled your head out of your A. Caroline was the first to notice. After a meeting, she looked between us and said, you two are together, aren't you? You're in love. Carrie, that's absurd, Marty, one of my closest friends, said. He'd never go for it. But Caroline saw through it. Allison, stand next to him, Caroline ordered. Allison obeyed, avoiding my eyes. See how she lit up? Caroline exclaimed. How did I not see this? June brought big changes. I married Allison, and we bought a beautiful house. I also treated myself to a custom Mustang Shelby GT 500 KR Super Snake. It wasn't a sleek sports car like the GT, but a true American muscle car. Its nearly 800 horsepower was breathtaking, and tires wore out quickly from its power. Allison loved her new F-150, but knew the Mustang was off limits. She was my soulmate, with no doubts or conflicts like with Tammy Jo. We completed each other. When Tammy Jo learned about my wedding, she was furious. Her first encounter with Allison was memorable. Get away from him, witch, she screamed, bringing a scene from Aliens to life. Allison, calm as ever, stepped up to Tammy Jo and looked her over. Tammy Jo, visibly upset, was nearly hyperventilating. The commotion drew the attention of nearby men, their eyes darting to her heaving chest. But I felt none of my old attraction. Her hold on me was gone. Allison, she's right, isn't she? Tammy Jo sneered. Allison glanced at me and I nodded. Yes, she's right, but it doesn't matter now. Tammy Jo's rage flared. You'll regret this, she yelled. Allison shook her head calmly. He's not your husband anymore, you're divorced. It was just a formality, Tammy Jo retorted. I noticed she'd put on weight around her chest, hips, and stomach. Leave Danny alone, she shouted, sounding desperate. Allison tilted her head slightly. 2 words, squats and breath mints, she said coldly. I couldn't help but laugh. It was sharp, witty, and bold. Having 2 women clash over me was surreal, but it reaffirmed I'd moved on from Tammy Jo. Her love was turbulent, full of highs and lows, an exhausting cycle of seeking excitement. She said she loved me, but it was never enough. Ellie was different. She was steady, supportive, and we found happiness in simple moments. Our love was peaceful and real, without drama. When she said she loved me, it was true and unwavering. The final encounter with Tammy Jo came months later. I walked in to find her sitting on my couch. Alarmed, I was ready to call the police. Where's Ellie? I shouted, worried. Calm down, silly, Ellie said behind me. I spun around and hugged her. I'm okay, Danny, she reassured me. Tammy Jo came to apologize. What? I asked, half expecting a trick. My therapist said I need to accept that I lost you and move on, Tammy Jo admitted. I was wrong to take it out on Allison, and I'm sorry. It felt insincere, but over time, I realized I was wrong. Tammy Jo and Allison started spending time together, and I'd come home to find them lounging by the pool. Occasionally, Tammy Jo would bend over suggestively when Ellie wasn't looking. We even had dinner a few times, and I had to admit it was enjoyable. Then Tammy Jo made her move. One evening after a barbecue, she said, "Why don't we go inside?" I don't feel like watching a movie, I replied. This moonlight makes me think differently. Exactly, Tammy Jo said, her tone filled with desire, sounding almost intoxicated, though we'd only had one beer each. Ellie stood abruptly, eyes hard. What are you talking about, Tammy? She demanded. Tammy Jo gave a sly smile. Allison, you're his wife, and I was his wife. We have that in common. I told you I still love him, and I have strong feelings for you too. We should be together, all three of us. Ellie's face flushed with anger. Get out of my house now, she shouted, angrier than I'd ever seen her. Tammy Jo's eyes narrowed. I let you keep him for now, but you don't have what it takes to satisfy Danny long-term, she said, adjusting her top until one of her bosoms slipped out, whether by accident or design. Ellie turned to me, eyes sharp. Is it true, Danny? She asked. No, Ellie, I said firmly. From the start, I told you I wanted nothing to do with her. Tammy Jo was into things I couldn't stand. But you and I, we're forever. I love you more than I ever loved her. I'd never share you with anyone. Allison, there's something twisted about you, Ellie said, turning back to Tammy Jo. You act like those women in adult films, always performing for attention. And assuming I'd share my husband? Never. I'm all he needs. Tammy Jo's eyes narrowed. You've made a big mistake, sweetheart. I'll get him back, and it'll cost you more than you think. You'll regret not taking my offer. Tammy Jo glanced at me. I went to therapy for you, Danny. I realized other guys' attention was nothing compared to just watching a movie with you. I was willing to share you temporarily to win you back. Weeks passed without seeing Tammy Jo, but I heard stories about her reckless behavior. My accountant mentioned she was nearly out of money and could lose her house. She started dating Bobby McGillicuddy, the mayor's son, known for trouble and a record of sexual attack charges. Some settled and one reduced to misconduct. Their relationship made sense. They were both chaotic. She needed his money. He needed her wild energy. 2 weeks later, my life changed. Dave Peterson, the county sheriff, and an old friend pulled me over on my way home. Danny, come to the hospital, he said urgently. Dave, what happened? I asked, fear tightening my chest. He didn't answer, just drove with the siren blaring. I feared Ellie was dead. At the hospital, doctors wouldn't meet my eyes. They led me to a small room where I found Ellie curled up, silent and crying. I rubbed her back gently, and she sighed, a small sound that gave me hope. That's a good sign, said a woman behind me. I turned to see Dr. Martha. What happened? I demanded. Your wife was sedated and attacked, she said, voice trembling. Who? I asked, barely able to control my rage. We don't know. She hasn't spoken to anyone, the doctor said. Danny! Ellie's weak voice came from behind. I rushed to her side. Yes, honey? Do you still want to be married to me? She whispered. Ellie, don't say that. I've loved you since the day I met you, she muttered. I still owe you for crashing your car. Ellie, you've repaid me 1,000,000 times over. The car doesn't matter. Take me home, Danny. They can't help me. I need you, she said. I wrapped her in my jacket and picked her up. The doctor tried to protest, but a look silenced her. Dave met me at the door. Danny, I need to ask her questions. She's a victim, not a suspect. Find who did this before I do, I said, eyes cold. Dave stepped back, hand on his magnum. Sorry, Danny, he muttered. I looked at a nearby guard. Did you see that? Yes, sir. He reached for his tool, the guard confirmed. Good, I said. Dave's face fell. What are you doing? He asked. Now there's a witness that you threatened an unarmed man holding a victim. The public won't like that, I said. Danny, it's not what it seems. Until this is resolved, that's how it stands. I'll get lawyers and security to protect her. Can I come by later to ask questions? Dave asked. She's been through enough. I'll call when she's ready. It took days for Ellie to feel better. Dave came to ask questions, which was necessary but hard to watch. When he asked me to leave the room, my instinct to protect her fought against the need for answers. When Dave left, my anger surged again. Watching Ellie struggle to describe what happened, reliving the trauma as she recalled details about those men, it was like reopening a wound that hadn't healed. We'll get through this, Ellie, I said. We'll be fine. You don't want me to leave? She asked. I was stunned. Why would you even think that? I love you more than anything. Why would I ever want you to go? It's hard enough to be apart when I'm at work. She smiled softly and took my hand. I love you too, you fool, she said, a tear rolling down her cheek. But not everyone feels the same way. Anyone who truly promised to be with you would, I said firmly. Not if they think I'm damaged, she whispered. I looked at her, not fully understanding, but knowing she'd tell me when ready. It took weeks for Ellie to start feeling better, with some aspects of her healing coming more slowly than others. For the first few days, we were inseparable, even going to the bathroom together. She couldn't stand being alone, even for a moment. It was challenging. No man wants to see everything a woman does in there. I was amazed at some of the things my wonderful wife did regularly. I thought our intimacy would take time to return, but I was wrong. As soon as her bruises faded, Ellie wanted to be close again, as if she needed reassurance of our bond. We made love slowly and gently, and she never wanted it to end. It was a moment that proved we were okay. The biggest challenge was getting Ellie comfortable leaving the house and being around others. One evening, Tammy Jo visited to apologize again. She noticed the changes in Ellie, but claimed not to know what had happened. This set off alarm bells for me. Everyone who came to offer support was in touch with Tammy Jo, so how could she not know? I felt something was off. Throughout this ordeal, I avoided asking Ellie for details about what happened or how many were involved. I wanted her to know that what mattered most was her survival and my unwavering love. Where I grew up, even a kiss with another man could ruin a woman's reputation, and her partner would leave her to maintain his honor. I feared I might lose Ellie, who was the best thing that ever happened to me. Ellie, you'll never lose me. Unless it's because I go to jail for finding and dealing with those responsible, I told her. We went inside, held each other, and fell asleep. Now I realize that might have been the wrong thing to say. It's been months since the attack, Dave, and your department still hasn't made any progress. You've called her multiple times for statements, but you haven't learned anything. I see now that you knew about Bobby and possibly his friends all along. You ignored it, Dave, prioritizing your job over justice. Dave opened his mouth to speak, but stayed silent. A few weeks later, one of the men who held Ellie's hands during the attack died from an overdose. We didn't know he was involved until Bobby mentioned it. Didn't they tell you? The other one died 2 weeks ago, Bobby said. They said it was a hunting accident. Ellie may have known, but she had nothing to do with their deaths. At that time, I was facing my own struggles. I felt my world crumbling, certain I was going to lose what mattered most. Ellie and I moved forward, realizing you'd probably never catch them, Dave. I started suggesting to Ellie that it might be time to start a family, but she avoided the subject or changed it. One day I pressed her. It's just not the right time, she said, maybe in a month or so. I was hurt. I always thought the woman I loved would want children with me. Something felt wrong. Then Tammy Jo called. Hey, she began with mock sympathy. I know this is tough, but sometimes trauma changes people. You know about Stockholm Syndrome, right? If things don't work out with Ellie, you can always come back to me. By the way, could you lend me some money? Ellie's behavior grew stranger. It broke my heart, and I couldn't imagine life without her, but my trust was fading. I hired a private investigator. 2 days later, he returned with findings. I found something, he said, handing me the report with an apologetic look. My heart sank as I flipped through the photos. This morning, about half an hour after you left for work, Ellie dressed up and went to a bar on the east side, he said. She spent a while drinking and talking to a man I didn't recognize. He continued. I took these photos. I saw Ellie with Bobby McGillicuddy. I didn't know then that he was the one who attacked her while others held her down. That night, I went home and silently went to bed. Ellie tried to comfort me. What's wrong? She asked. Just work stress, I lied. She seemed doubtful, but lay beside me. The next day, my phone rang. It was the investigator. I intercepted a call between Bobby and Ellie, he said. Listen to this. He played the recording. Hey, baby, Ellie said. Can I see you today? Bobby replied. Maybe. What do you mean? Ellie asked. I think it's time we got to know each other better. I booked us a room at the Shangri-La Motel, Ellie continued. We can meet at lunch, and I'll be home before Danny gets back from work. Why do women always mention this guy? Bobby said. He's not that special. If you insult Danny, I won't sleep with you. I'll just beat you up, Ellie said angrily. Her tone was intense. If she loved me, why was she doing this? Okay, baby, Bobby said. I get it. He's not into wild stuff, huh? As far as I knew, neither was Ellie. Now, nothing surprised me anymore. Exactly, Ellie said softly. If you follow my rules, it'll be an experience like nothing you've ever had. She gave Bobby directions to the motel and the room number. Anger surged, and I threw my phone across the room before picking it back up. Sorry, man, my private investigator said. It's tough, but at least now you can end things and move on. I've been through it. Just keep trying until you find the right one. With tears streaming down my face, I told him I thought I had already found her. I sat at my desk staring at my computer but doing nothing. My mind was consumed with thoughts of Ellie. Ideas of revenge crept in. No, I wouldn't. But maybe I could make her pay for the car? Probably not. Still, I knew I wouldn't go quietly. Lost in thought, I realized it was almost noon, and Ellie would soon be meeting Bobby. I decided to crash their meeting and make it clear she wasn't welcome back. Maybe I'd even teach Bobby a lesson. I rushed to my Mustang and started it just as my phone rang. It was Tammy Jo. She asked how I was and mentioned she was starting fresh, wanting to be friends. Knowing I'd need support soon, I spoke to her while driving. When I reached the motel, I told Tammy Jo I'd call back later. She sounded so cheerful that I almost forgot her past betrayals. I wondered if people really could change, but realized I was bracing for the loneliness I'd face without Ellie. I felt desperate, trying to use Tammy Jo as a lifeline against the despair I anticipated, but I realized it would be foolish to leave one cheater only to get involved with another. I found the room Ellie had mentioned. Peering through the window, I was shocked to see Bobby without clothes and handcuffed to the bed, while Ellie stood over him, fully clothed. I'd seen similar scenarios online, so it didn't seem out of place at first. Ellie slapped Bobby repeatedly, hitting him with surprising force. I remembered her telling him he had to play her game to the end. Slowly, I turned the doorknob and stepped inside. She was too focused to notice me. "I'll be a great mom, you know," Ellie said. "Too bad I couldn't get to your friends. They were already dead when I figured out what needed to be done." "You'll never be a mother, you psycho," Bobby spat. "As soon as I'm free, you're finished." "Who said you'd be free?" she countered. "I'll do anything to protect Danny. I can't let you leave." Then I noticed what was in her hand. It was small in my eyes, but in hers it looked formidable. It was a Venetian axe, a combat replica from a museum catalog, a one-handed, single-headed battle axe from 14th century Italy. The handle, wrapped in wire, was slightly curved and made of chrome-plated steel with brass accents. A lion motif decorated the back of the head, and the sharp front edge gleamed dangerously. Unlike most axes meant for breaking armor, this one was sharp. I suddenly realized this wasn't about infidelity. I was missing something. Ellie hadn't betrayed me. She had lured Bobby there for another purpose. What did she mean when she said she'd do anything to protect me? "Oh, damn, you cut me, you crazy woman," Bobby shouted. "You don't need to protect your precious husband. He's already doing all that martial arts nonsense. Besides, this was always about him. Tammy Jo would have torn us apart if anything happened to him. It was her idea. She wanted to make him think you were unfaithful, so she'd get another chance with him." He changed his tone. "Look, I'm sorry I got mixed up in this. I'm sorry for what we did to you. We honestly thought that with all that stuff in your system, you'd be into it. With that much junk in you, you should have wanted everything you saw." "Thanks. That's what I needed to hear," Ellie said. "And tell that scheming woman I'm coming for her too." "I'll tell her," he said. Before he could finish, I watched Ellie raise the axe above her head. I couldn't let her go through with it. I moved behind her, catching her hand before she brought it down and kissed her. "No, Ellie," I said, kissing her again. Time seemed to stop, and we both realized we had made a huge mistake. A few weeks ago, when I said I'd kill those responsible, she thought I'd end up in jail. To prevent that, she decided to take matters into her own hands. The first 2 men died in accidents, but she lured Bobby here to finish the job. I'd been down these past days, and she assumed it was due to frustration. She pointed to the recording device by the bed that was capturing everything, including Bobby's confession implicating Tammy Jo. "I love you, Danny," she said. "I had to do this so we could move on and have a family. I didn't want to risk getting pregnant and ending up in jail. What if I had to hurt him and went to prison? You wouldn't want to be married to an inmate." "I would," I said, and we kissed passionately. "I thought you were cheating on me," I admitted. She smiled and laughed softly. "Danny, I told you I could never betray you. What do I need to do to prove it?" Then it happened. Lost in our embrace, the axe slipped from Ellie's hands and fell onto the bed. The heavy axe head landed first, hitting Bobby. His screams probably echoed across the state. And as captured on the recording, Ellie and I were momentarily stunned, unsure of what to do next. I rushed to the bathroom for a towel while Ellie called an ambulance. I tossed it to Bobby and told him to press it against his wound. I wasn't about to do it for him. Honestly, I would have preferred if he hadn't made it. Luckily, the ambulance arrived before he bled out or went into shock. He survived, but the blame was squarely on him. "The real question, Dave, is, what are you going to do about this?" I said. "We have Bobby's confession on tape admitting that he and his friends attacked my wife. He also implicated Tammy Jo as the mastermind." All eyes turned to Dave. Tammy Jo tried to slip out. "I'm sorry, Danny," she said, "but that's on you too. If you just get rid of that little redhead or let me share you with her, none of this would have happened, and we'd all be happy." Her admission sounded like a villain's line at the end of every Scooby-Doo episode, and I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for those meddling kids. She pushed against the deputies at the door, but they stood firm. "Danny, you're putting me in a tough spot," Dave said. "With this tape, the mayor's son could face a long sentence, even though what happened could be spun as an accident. I could pin this on you or Allison and possibly free Bobby, but I'll make you a deal. Hand over the tape and you and the redhead walk out of here. Everyone goes home and we forget this ever happened. Officially, Bobby's injury will be marked as an industrial accident. What do you think, Martha? I asked. She stared at her shoes. Joe, my lawyer, did the same. He couldn't meet my eyes. He slept with Martha, Ellie whispered. We need a new lawyer, honey. I took a deep breath. Joe, you're fired, I said. You're no longer my company's attorney and won't be receiving any more work from us. He looked irritated, but knew I was serious. Martha, I respected you. I thought you were not only attractive, but also honest and committed to the law. I was wrong. This city will miss you. What are you talking about? She said, defensive. If I don't agree to this, it's my career on the line. I could lose my job. What about your integrity? I asked. It's easy for you to talk like that, she retorted. Your company is a money-making machine. The rest of us have to deal with reality. Try paying your mortgage or car loan with honor, and then come talk to me. Dave, we grew up together. I thought you'd stand up and do what's right, not just follow the mayor, I said. Danny, this is what's right for me and my family. I have kids to support, but at least look at it this way. Bobby won't hurt anyone else, even if they manage to reattach him, Dave said, staring at the floor. And Tammy Jo will suffer too. Seeing you and Allison together will be a constant reminder of what she lost. You two have enough to start fresh somewhere else. Okay, Dave, I said. I hoped it wouldn't come to this. To what? He asked with a sigh. Mustang, I said loudly. Everyone in the room stared at me as if I had lost my mind. Danny, why are you shouting? What does your car have to do with this? Dave asked, confused. That's the code word I was told to use, I explained. He looked at me, puzzled. Within moments, heavily armed officers with FBI and state police vests stormed the room. They quickly handcuffed Tammy Jo, Martha, and Dave, warning the deputies not to interfere. A man in a suit entered after everyone was secured. Dave, Martha, and Joe recognized him. It was the state attorney general. Dave and Martha were charged with breach of public trust and conspiracy to obstruct justice, and the mayor would likely face charges too. Bobby was charged with attack, and Tammy Jo faced charges of solicitation and conspiracy. Joe was at risk of losing his law license for professional misconduct. The attorney general reassured us that Bobby's injury was considered an accident, and neither Ellie nor I would face charges, especially considering the conspiracy to protect her attackers. After a few minutes, he told us we could go home, but not leave town. We'll need your testimony, but we have a strong case against them all. Ellie and I were finally alone. She kissed me, and we walked out to my Mustang, feeling an immense sense of relief. Can we come back for my car tomorrow, or have someone pick it up? She asked. Right now, I just need to be close to you, idiot. Why am I an idiot? I asked. There are too many reasons to count, she said with a smile. Trust me, you're an idiot. If I'm such an idiot, why do you want to get in my car? Maybe I should just let Joe serve you the divorce papers he's been working on, I joked. Her smile vanished, and her face went pale, as if all the blood had drained from it. You were... she started. I'm sorry, Ellie, I said. I thought... Idiot, she said, her voice softening. You really are a fool, Danny, but you're my fool. Don't ever forget that. And with Joe's future in doubt, he won't be causing any trouble. Name one reason, I said. I want to hear just one. DJP Square, she said. What's that? We both asked at the same time, then smiled. You first, I said. I want to know why I'm an idiot. Okay, she said. But don't get upset if I keep going. You're a fool because you don't realize how much I love you, Danny. Without you, I'd be lost. You're my everything. The second reason, how could you even think I'd cheat on you? That's not just foolishness, that's brain damage. But I upgraded you from brain damage to fool because Tammy Jo really did betray you, so maybe you're still shaken. And I promoted you because I love you, my foolish man. She looked at me as I sat there, stunned, and gently pushed my jaw closed. I can't stop now, she laughed. You're such a fool for thinking I didn't want kids with you. Honestly, what do I tell you every time we're close? Do I need to? Okay, that's enough, I interrupted. So, what is DJP Square? You said to name one. She smiled, taking my hand. I thought we'd name one of our kids after his dad. DJP Square stands for Daniel James Payne Jr., but if that's too formal, we can just call him Fool Jr. I leaned in, kissed her, and started the Mustang's powerful engine. The car was hard to manage at low speeds due to its upgraded supercharger. Danny, while you were talking, I stayed quiet, but you lied, she said. I found the private investigator's reports hidden in your desk. You knew who those men were before they died. I was afraid you'd go after them and end up in jail. I couldn't let you throw your life away because of me, so I had to deal with Bobby first. Bobby's friend, Stu Morgenstern, provided the substances they used on you. He gave Bobby a vial of GBL, and Bobby passed it to Tammy Jo. When you met her for lunch, one of them slipped it into your drink. My investigator overheard Stu bragging while trying to sell more of it, which is how we learned about Duncan Holmes, Bobby's other friend. We didn't know Bobby had participated in the attack. We thought he only helped Tammy Jo drug you. Duncan was the one who... I stopped, not wanting her to relive the trauma. I kissed her deeply, hoping to replace the painful memory with a better one. Anyway, I had nothing to do with their deaths. GBL is powerful and dangerous in small doses. The difference between making someone compliant and causing a coma or death is minimal. Stu had a party at his rundown house and mixed up the bottles. One with GBL ended up being used. You were at the sheriff's department then, complaining about how they mishandled your case, she said with a laugh. How did you know? I asked, feigning surprise. I love you, fool, she replied. DJP Square was born 10 months later.